Hi there. Before you jump into this episode, we want to make sure our listeners know about the How Do You Drew Patreon page, where we release exclusive content for our members.
We've shared unedited video versions of podcast episodes, rare Drew Barrymore photos from our digital archives, movie commentaries, and so much more.
We're currently working through a deep dive of each chapter of Little Girl Lost, which, if you don't know, is Drew's out-of-print autobiography released when she was only a teenager. And it's been really good stuff, you guys.
There's already plenty of content to dig into and lots more to come. So join now for as little as $1 a month and support us at How Do You Drew.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/howdoyoudrew to join today. Thank you.
Enjoy the episode.
Hello, and welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewseum.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley.
All right, so happy almost June. I mean, it's going to be June when this is released.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so halfway through the freaking year almost.
Jesus.
Hello, 2025. Where are you going?
Oh my God.
All right. Okay. So we have some stuff at the top. I know for sure one of them is kind of a deja Drew.
Yeah. Some follow-ups for sure. Okay. So the first one is, this is so funny because I think we've talked about this like 3 times recently. This Dateline interview that Drew did in 2005 with Stone Phillips, who went down to Mexico when she was doing MTV Spring Break promoting Fever Pitch. It's a really awesome interview. And I found out I have it on DVD. And I forgot. So anyway, in that is this quote that I absolutely love about Drew being a dumpling rolling out of control when she was running around on the Fenway Park field for Fever Pitch. So we can finally share the real audio and not just my rendition of it.
So you get a little Drewism at the top of the show. So let's listen to this.
I'm like a corgi dog. I was like, oh God, this is so, do I look like a pot sticker running across this field? I feel like one. I feel like a dumpling who's rolling out of control.
Oh, I love it so much.
Like a dumpling rolling out of control.
One of my favorite Drewisms of all time. There it is.
All right, you have a follow-up about the Breakthrough Prize.
Okay, so Remember how Drew dressed up all beautifully gorgeous and went to this weird science event that apparently all these celebrities go to? Still don't understand why that is.
Yeah.
But anyway, I found out she presented an award there with Ki Hugh Kwan. I hope I said that right. Her Steven Spielberg buddy. So that's really cool. And the video is on YouTube. So we will link to that. So kind of at least we have like a reason she was there. Why these actors are all like, yes, we'll come to this. I don't know. And then also figured out she was also there in 2019. Whoops, totally forgot about that. So this isn't even new for her. So I feel really like I dropped the ball when I reported about this originally, but there we go.
But you like had tried to figure out like what the heck is this event and just assumed like why would she go before?
I still don't know why all these people go. Like they showed like the audience while she's presenting in this video and there's like so many celebrities there, but it's just for science awards, which is great. It's cool. But why?
But why? What is behind this?
Yeah, there's more to it I'm not getting.
Yes. And I barely remember this look from 2019. Like I remember it, but I'm like, it's not super like present in my mind.
Well, and this was like during my dark age of like not staying up on Drew stuff because I was too busy falling in love with my now husband. So it all comes together. It makes sense.
Don't give yourself a hard time. You never knew.
Yeah, right.
All right. So a last little follow up that has to do with something we reported on before about Saturday Night Live. Scarlett Johansson just surpassed Drew and Tina Fey's record for the most time a woman has hosted SNL. Meh.
I know, like I think it was the season finale, and we always watch the clips on YouTube like the next day or the same night. And I saw she was hosting, and I was like, no, she just passed Drew's record. So Scarlett's now at 7, while Drew, who was the first one to hit 6, and then Tina Fey is also still at 6. So guys, like, what are we doing? She's in New York. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, she's got to go back on.
I mean, I'm sure it's really hard to fit in, like, because it's like a full week, right? That you're committed
right
with her show, but like, can they take a break from the show and do it? It seems possible.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'd love to see her on it again. Okay. Anyway, yeah, Drew, you're going to have to like get one of your SNL records back.
Yes, please. You can't get the youngest one anymore.
Exactly. Okay. So, all right, let's go on over to the kind comments corner.
So sweet.
Okay, this is a cute one. This comes from @_Nagezi on Instagram. It's just a little tiny one, but I liked it.
All right, so they said, your story is one of my faves, Drew. The things you were exposed to, the way you overcame, salute to you. I like
Cute.
that.
Her story is one of our favorites too. That's why we're constantly here telling it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's go back in time a little bit. It looks like we're going to a couple different years. So we're going to be time traveling a little bit within this segment. All right, let's go back in time. All right, what do you got for this week in Drew history?
Okay, so first I was just going to do one, and then I was like, wait a second. If we're talking about the week and she's done the same thing the same week many years in a row, let's just talk about them all. So
let's do it.
We're talking about the week of basically June 4th through June 8th, but over the years of 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, what did she do all of those years? She went to the A Time for Heroes charity event that benefited the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. So this was such a cool thing that for that 5 years in a row, we could count on her showing up to this fun, like carnival style event.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And so many cute pictures from like every year.
Yes.
Every year.
Totally.
Okay. You made a note that the first one was in 1990.
I was trying to find out, like, did she go to the first one and then she was attached or no? So some time had gone by. And I found an article in 1993 where it said that People magazine underwrote the event. And I was like, puzzle pieces coming together, because People and In Style were the same publishers, and In Style would do a spread on this event every year. So it all makes sense.
It does make sense. And another reason why we have such cute pictures, like all of those clippings. Well, first of all, In Style had great quality paper.
Yes. So true.
I love paper.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, high quality clippings. Let's move on. I never knew where it was held. So it was held at the Robert Taylor Ranch in Brentwood. I guess every time they held the event, it was held at the same place. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was very satisfying to look up pictures of this place and like be able to see the things in the background and be like, I recognize that fence or whatever.
That's very cool. All right, so do we want to talk about the looks at all, or how do we even like encompass this event?
Include them. I mean, one cool thing is that she was always like posing with other fun people. So like the first year she went with Eric Erlandson, but there's also pictures of her throughout the years, like with Adam Sandler and Courtney Cox and Lily Sobieski. There's of course the 99 one where she sees Jamie Walters, which is the best picture ever because she's shocked. So always fun photos of her with other people. It was definitely a very A-list kind of event. It felt like.
That's cool. I, of course, am obsessed with the 96 ones. And
I was just going to say, do you have a favorite?
It's got, I mean, between 95 and 96, I think she looks really cute, especially at the first three. In the 98, 99, she's a little bit more in her like plainer era. Yeah. 98 is quite a frumpy look, but
that's 98 is definitely like never been kissed filming time.
Yeah, totally. But if you all haven't seen these pictures, they're adorable, every single one. So we'll make sure we put some on the episode page for you to enjoy. And if you see that black hair, just know that, like, I think we both drool over her with the black hair, but
yeah, but it especially speaks to your soul.
Right. And she just looked so cute. She looked with the blue glasses and the like vintage top. Oh, so cute. All right.
Beautiful.
All right. Great choice for this week in history. All right. So talk about what's new with Drew.
Do you want to hit the headlines?
There's not much because guess what? It's summer, and that means Drew goes into hibernation. We just don't hear much from her in the summer. But I thought it was notable that Beautiful, her line, her only line at this point, this is her one and only brand anymore. How weird is that?
So weird.
Beautiful has some really cute new pet items and dining room sets. So we'll try to link to them. It's really hard on Walmart's website. If you guys know, you know, we've talked about this before. But the pet stuff is so cute. I was definitely tempted.
Mm-hmm. I was very tempted too. Like the bed, especially.
Yes. Yeah. If they had a little pink one, I'd be all over it.
I'm kind of surprised that it's
I know.
Like only like white and green right now or something.
And I think a black maybe.
Okay. And that dining room set, that's adorable.
Yeah, I really like that.
I mean, I know I have the Drew chair and like one other thing, but there's so much other like of the wood furniture that I really want.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff. Like it's kind of wild that we've barely gotten our hands on that much of it, but
I know. Send it to us for free, Beautiful. What the hell?
Yeah. Hello. We are giving you free advertising right now.
We love Beautiful by Drew. Walmart, we're kind of Sorry, Walmart.
Truth. Hey, Drewbies. We are here to tell you about our website hosts, Positive Medium, and they sponsor the podcast. We've been clients of theirs for over 10 years, and we use them for all our website needs on thedrewseum.com.
Their services include customized web design, professional coding, search engine optimization and marketing, plus hosting, which has been huge for us for many years.
Plus, their incredible customer service has been one of our favorite features. They've literally saved our site quite a few times, and they always help with minor troubleshooting in a matter of minutes. So whether that's coding issues or back-end questions, etc., we reach out, we get help immediately, which is just invaluable.
Lucky you. To our listeners, Positive Medium is offering 25% off any managed WordPress hosting plan using our promo code DREW. That's DREW. Visit our friends over at positivemedium.com.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
All right, so we have something a little different for our weekly topic this week. You want to introduce us?
Sure. So this was just like a random bolt of inspiration I had. This week would have been Marilyn Monroe's 99th birthday. Incredible. And I've been listening to some other podcasts about Marilyn. She's, of course, like Drew, kind of deeply, eternally fascinating with her life. And I just started getting a little inspired. I was hearing some other people, like how they were describing Marilyn. And I was like, God, that could be Drew. Wow, that's just like Drew. And we know that Drew has like a real admiration for her. So all these pieces kind of came together. I tried to see if we could get like an actual Marilyn expert on the pod. Didn't get any answers in time and didn't want to put this off because doing it around her birthday is just too perfect.
So cool. And one of those like falling into place.
Yes.
By the way, I just realized I am a nerd for numbers. This is episode 106 and Marilyn's birthday, you said, would have been 6-1.
Yes. Oh my God. Look, see, meant to be. That's so cool. That's so cool. So I just want to put the disclaimer. I wanted to get an actual expert on here, but I think you and I are fans of her enough. Like I've definitely went through a phase where I was like finding out everything I could about her life. Funnily enough, literally right here next to me, I did not place this here, is the book you gave me.
Oh my God.
George Barris one.
You want to hear something so funny? I was at a bookstore like 2 days ago and I saw that book and I was like,
no way.
This, but I was like, I love this book so much and I feel like I gave somebody a copy.
It was me. That's so cool.
That is one of the coolest books.
Yeah, because it's from the last like real photo shoot from her life. But anyway, so there's a lot of misinformation about Marilyn out there. Obviously, we are Drew historians, and I'm going to try really hard not to make any mistakes. If we do report something incorrectly about Marilyn, please let us know because we are suckers for accuracy, as we always say.
Yes.
And we try not to spread misinformation.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say that what I've been very interested about Marilyn is Marilyn as a person, like her and how that persona was such a different thing than her public persona. I mean, that's true for kind of anyone, but when I learned about her, it's like she was kind of a quiet, and I guess this has been portrayed in a couple films, like biopics at this point, but I've definitely always been fascinated by that person, by like Norma Jean, I guess,
Yeah, totally.
But let's get into this because, of course, we're coming from Drew's, Drew's like the comparison of their lives, which I love all the things that are in these notes. Is so fascinating. And then we get to kind of talk about like Drew's specific throughout her life, like the evidence of her love and admiration of this person. So
yeah.
All right, so let's get into it.
Okay, so they have a lot of things in common, and I think it's fun to see the parallels. Obviously there's a lot of differences too, but it's striking to me, the similarities. So of course they're both born and raised in Los Angeles, which is really cool. They're both LA girls. And I did the math and now I can't remember. Are they 49 years apart? Yes, right?
That
almost 50.
That seems that looks about right. Well, actually, we can do this easily. Drew just turned 50.
Right. Yes. So 49 years. Yes.
Got it.
Look at us, mathing away.
Woo, we like numbers, but not quick math. It's different. It's
totally. So cool that they're both like kind of grew up in the shadow of Hollywood, right? Like it was almost meant to be. They both had these unstable childhoods. So really had a lack of a father. Marilyn didn't even know who her father was for most of her life. I think it's been pretty much conclusively decided, I think even through DNA, that it was this gentleman that her mom worked for at a movie studio or a film reel cutting place. I think his last name is Gifford. I should have written this down, but she never knew him, never knew anything, never even knew for sure who her dad was. And then Drew's dad, I mean, definitely wasn't around in her childhood and wasn't a stable person and talked to the flickering Buddha in the corner, as we reported on last
was
episode.
not present, even if he was in her life a little bit, was not present.
Right. Yeah. And their absences definitely caused these huge shadows in their life. Like I think it really strongly affected both of them. And then their moms were complicated women who they were in sort of around, not around, again, just really unstable. They had half siblings who they didn't grow up with. So they were both sort of on their own, like their whole childhood. I bet Marilyn would kind of say the same thing as Drew, that she sort of had to raise herself. Like it wouldn't even surprise me.
Totally. Absolutely.
Sad.
It is sad. So one thing that we've talked about a lot about Drew is that despite this kind of lack of a traditional family, she built families through work and friendships. And this was also true of Marilyn. So that's kind of a neat, I mean, that's what made it like so hard. Like Drew would build these families and then be torn away from them if it was work or, they're also both great lovers of animals and children. And there's another kind of almost similarity. Marilyn had apparently lost 2 pregnancies, and Drew has 2 daughters. And we, of course, don't know like if there could have been more with Marilyn.
Yeah, it always like when you just think that Marilyn never got to experience that, which I think was devastating to her, but also like that there's no one to carry on her legacy bloodline wise. Like it made me really go like, oh, I'm so glad that Drew has 2 daughters who are like continuing on the Barrymore line. It's, thank God.
In some way. Yeah. I'm curious to see, but yeah, it is fascinating for it to just like literally die with Marilyn.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about like how this legacy continues. I mean,
that's true.
In its own
I mean, she lives on. Like we're doing an episode about her right now. It's crazy. But yeah, I would just, how cool would that be if she had like ancestors?
Yeah.
So both ladies got married 3 times, which is kind of fun. Marilyn's first one was also as a teenager. She was a teenager and it was to James Doherty. So they have that in common. Her second marriage was to Joe DiMaggio and Drew's was to Tom Green. Probably not a lot in common between those two guys.
But both famous.
That's true.
You know?
Yes, very. And then finally, Marilyn's final marriage was to Arthur Miller, who was a Jewish New Yorker, just like Drew's third marriage. Will Koppelman. Yeah, kind of funny.
Aww.
And I think obviously they're both LA girls, but Marilyn spent plenty of time in New York too. And I think it was because of Arthur Miller. Could be wrong about that. So that's sort of like what Drew had to do, kind of move over to New York for her children's father's life and family.
Yeah. I'm vaguely remembering that didn't Joe DiMaggio send flowers to Marilyn's grave like every year until he died or something?
I think it might have even been like something extraordinary, like every week, something crazy like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I've definitely heard that. And I'm pretty sure that's true. Again, with almost anything about her life, you got to go asterisk. Could be legend.
Yeah, could be because she's such a icon that people like to fantasize. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I didn't really realize that Marilyn had this issue, but they both had substance abuse issues and depression. I was familiar a bit with the depression, but I guess I hadn't really realized or maybe hadn't thought about Marilyn's own substance abuse issues.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it, and I don't think it's something that we want to dwell on, but I do think it's interesting to just note they both struggled, and I'm sure fame plays a part into that for both of them, and also family history I think is definitely significant for both of them as far as mental health issues. So yeah, fascinating again. They both had a lack of education and I think have a little bit of shame or embarrassment about that.
Like a chip on their shoulder about it.
Yeah, just oh.
And of course we mean traditional education.
Right.
So yeah, so let's kind of should we dive a little bit into how they did this for themselves? Because I like this.
It's just wild how they have this in common. They both really tried to educate themselves through books. Both of them were so drawn to I'm going to learn through reading. And funnily enough, I found this quote from Harper's Bazaar, 1996, one of our favorite articles, where Drew speaks about that. And it really overlaps in a fun way because she said, "This is what I'm reading, Music for Chameleons by Truman Capote. I'm really excited because this story is in here that I've always wanted to read, A Beautiful Child. It's about Marilyn Monroe." She opens to a page she has marked and reads, "And the chameleons scattered like sparks from an exploding star." Isn't that a great line? I'm a big underliner of all my books. And I had just heard somebody who owns some of her books talking about, no, she really did read these books people, it wasn't a prop. She would annotate and underline in all of her books. And Drew definitely does that. So I was like, that is so neat.
I love that. I love
Isn't
these
that cool?
just little things. I am not a book annotator because I
neither.
feel like I don't want to write or fold or do that to
on
books.
On the paper.
But paper. But there's also part of me when I find an annotated book, I'm
Yes.
I'm interested in it, fascinated by it, even if it's a total stranger.
I mean, it made me go how much would we love to have a book that Drew had annotated?
Love.
Obsessed.
Love. I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah.
They also both struggled to be taken seriously. I mean, this is a huge thing in Drew's life, especially pre her renaissances. She was always fighting to be I've been in this business. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And they were both seen as sex symbols and kind of dumb blondes, kind of put into this category.
Yeah. I don't know if people who are more recent fans of Drew really realize that there was definitely an era where she was number one, a sex symbol. Even my husband was oh, I didn't really know that. I'm dude, she was the girl for a while.
I feel it's certain people who maybe he's just slightly too young to have seen her that way, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Because it was the 90s. So it's I don't know. But that's weird because for us, it's so one of our favorite eras is that exhibitionist era.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. But I think both women were are and were so much smarter than people ever want to, number one, even believe or like accept. Like people are more comfortable. And, you know, for maybe it's also part of to do with their voices. Like people think, oh, she's so like airheaded or whatever, you know, and they're both so much smarter than people would give them credit for.
Mm-hmm. And I love the like self-educated part of
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, so this is so cool. I didn't know this about Marilyn. So I guess I didn't really know that much. They both formed production companies, both kind of in a way to take power back of
Yes.
their own careers. Like, hell yeah.
What a bunch of dummies. Come on.
Yeah, so dumb. So in 1954, Marilyn formed Marilyn Monroe Productions because she was tired of being offered literally the same type of roles. Sound familiar?
I know.
So forming her company was considered instrumental in the collapse of the studio system. Whoa.
How cool is that? I mean, I think it was very unusual for an actress to do something like this back then.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, it's the 50s, right? Where they're like sort of starting to get away from the studio system, but she was very much like stuck in that for a long time.
But
so
just barely getting out of
yeah,
this. Wow.
like what a pioneer. So
Wow.
cool. And then of course, 40 years later, Drew formed Flower Films in order to create her own opportunities and have more control over her career. So that's so neat. And then I saw something where she said that when she was starting Flower Films and sort of thinking about how to get women on screen, she watched How to Marry a Millionaire, which stars Marilyn. And Drew said how she loves a trio of women, of course, Charlie's Angels. So just a
That's
fun,
so
like
cool.
full circle thing.
Yeah, that she like literally was looking at that as a model that
Yeah.
she wanted to try to replicate in some way. Really
So
neat.
cool.
They also, in their lifetimes, weren't, well, Drew's still alive, but not recognized for their acting in a very like big way. Neither of them have or had Oscar nominations, but both have Golden Globe awards. So that's pretty cool. Marilyn has had 4 nominations and 3 wins, and Drew 3 nominations and 1 win. And I love your comparison pics here of them holding the Golden Globe.
Me too. Aren't those
Yeah.
cute? I was like, those go together so nicely.
Yeah, it's so sweet. It's cool.
Another thing they have in common, and this one's a little more complicated, but they've both been on the cover of Playboy. So Marilyn is on the very first cover of Playboy magazine, not by her choice, not with her consent. Hugh Hefner purchased the pictures and used them. But I do recall, and I can't source it, but I do recall Drew saying one of the things that drew her to doing Playboy was like, I can be on the same magazine that Marilyn Monroe was on the first cover of. So again, I don't agree with how it was done, but it's neat that they share that in common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is neat. This is also something where it looks like you did kind of a dive. This is really fun.
Always.
So they both had a relationship with the Strasbergs, which if you're not familiar, they're sort of like a very famous acting coach family, and they did classes in New York forever. And so Lee Strasberg was Marilyn's acting coach and mentor. And Anna Strasberg, who was Lee Strasberg's third wife, was one of Drew's honorary godmothers. We kind of talk about this, like, yeah, people who like made an impact on her life and then kind of after the fact got called godmother.
Right.
So Anna, though she didn't know Marilyn, she was in charge of Marilyn's estate after Lee's passing.
Yeah.
What?
So she's like the one who, like, so Lee inherited a lot of Marilyn's estate, but there's a whole complicated thing where they didn't get it until like the 80s or something like that, even though they were supposed to get it right after she died.
Wow.
But then when Lee passed away, Anna inherited it. So she was like the one behind that really big 1999 Christie's auction. I don't know if you remember that, but like that's where a lot of the Marilyn personal items like originated from.
Okay.
It's very fascinating. It sounds like she's kind of polarizing in the Marilyn fan base.
Okay.
Because she didn't have like a personal connection, but other people say like she really tried to like have the best interest for Marilyn and had a respect for her and knew how her and Lee were so close. So, But as far as Drew's part in it, I think my assumption is that Jade was maybe taking acting lessons from
Oh,
the Strasbergs. I don't know for sure, but like somewhere along the line, that was sort of always my impression of how Jade knew them. I mean, it would
okay.
make sense, right?
It would make sense, yeah, because otherwise, where'd the connection come from? But
Right.
but it's neat. I mean, it was something that I think Drew um, loved that she had this connection to these like, these people who had made such an impact on the acting business for so much
Hmm.
time, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Drew, little Drew even took part in a 1983 event that was called An Evening in the Life of Lee Strasberg a year after he passed away. And the pictures of Anna with her there are always misattributed to being Jade. Have you noticed
oh,
that?
I know I haven't noticed that, but am I surprised? No, not at
No,
all. Not at all. Okay,
not at
so
all.
the only Barrymore related film crossover is a movie from the 1950s called Right Cross. And Lionel was in the film, and there's a very short scene with Marilyn, one of her earliest film appearances. So they don't appear in the film together, but that's the only kind of like Barrymore Monroe sort
Yeah,
of almost like indirect but direct connection.
I know. It was even like John Barrymore died before she was really even in movies. So it's kind of
Wow.
wild to think that. Like, that's how long ago Drew's family was like, that's how
Relevant and
old.
famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
another little fun thing is that both Drew and Marilyn had posed as Jean Harlow, another famous blonde who I love. Marilyn had photos taken by Richard Avedon, and Drew had one taken by Ellen von Unworth. Actually, there's probably more than one, but we've only seen one. It was for Talk
Which
magazine in 1999.
I want to see more of those
I
talk
would die too
pictures.
because I actually don't really like this picture of Drew. I think it's a very awkward face and pose, but I love what
The
her
look.
styling looks like. So, God, to see more. Come on, Ellen.
But this is so neat to see them both like honoring, like you said, another,
Yeah.
blonde from the line of blondes,
Blonde bombshells.
blonde bombshells. Um, wow, I love this fact. So photographers that they both posed for, you have two listed here, George Hurrell,
I think it's
um,
Pharrell.
did Drew's Vanity Fair from 1984, so really early on. Those are some really cool pictures.
Yeah, those are very like old Hollywood looking.
Yeah. And then the famous Bert Stern did the photos of Drew for Mirabella in 1995. Also really beautiful and classic
Yeah, you're
like
right. And
portraits of her.
I mean, there could be others, but probably not because like the likelihood of someone overlapping their careers with both of them is just, there's a big gap there. So I just think that's really fun that they both got to be photographed by the same people.
Yeah,
It's really neat.
that's really neat.
I'm
Okay.
sure when Drew did Mirabella that was like on her mind. Like there's no way it wasn't.
Well, Bert Stern, I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know this other name immediately, but Bert Stern I
Oh,
know.
George Hurrell is more like I think he photographed Jean Harlow. Like he is way old school. Yeah.
Oh.
Like very black and white, intense glamour Hollywood.
Well, I'm also just curious to see when he passed, like how long after.
I don't think long after.
1992.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but he was born in 1904. So he's already
Woo.
8. He was 80 years old when he photographed Drew.
Whoa. Okay, that's cool.
That's wild. I'll do a deeper dive later to see like who else he photographed and stuff, but that's really neat. I love it. I love to think of if Drew was aware in either or both instances, if she was like, oh, neat, like their lens is like
I'm,
pointed at.
I'm certain.
Ah, that's
Yeah,
so
I'm
cool.
sure she was.
That's so cool.
Just a quick editor's note. George Hurrell also photographed a couple other Barrymores, including John and Lionel, for Grand Hotel. I'm sure that there are others, but it was really neat to find that out. Back to the show.
All right, so now we're kind of jumping to a different portion of this episode, which is fun. I love this like sort of way to trace some of the clear, like whether they're visual or auditory, evidence of Drew like speaking or loving Marilyn.
Yeah, little tributes and yeah, just little pieces of admiration.
And we're doing this chronologically, which I think is really fun too.
Would we do it any other way? Okay, so the first like real clear, obvious, this girl likes Marilyn Monroe, like most young girls do, is Drew's teenage bedroom. So in 1989, Mark Sennett for People magazine photographed Drew in a very 90s, absolutely awesome way. She's on a cordless phone, wearing a tie-dye shirt in her bedroom, and there are 3 photos of Marilyn on the wall behind her. So just so cool that that was like how she decorated her room at age 14.
And so, like, like in through today, people are still putting like posters of Marilyn on their wall.
Of course.
I mean, your dad has a painting of Marilyn on his wall, does he not?
Yeah, he does. I actually have one too that he gave me, but it's red and I like really don't like red decor in my house. No, it's like constantly a joke between me and Jason where he's like, "You should hang up the Marilyn painting." And I'm like, "I know, but I don't want to."
That's really funny. All right. So now let's jump to 1994. We've definitely talked about this before because there's a specific thing that we say about this.
And we're going to talk about it more next episode.
Yes, we are. Oh my gosh, how cool. So Batman Forever, the character Sugar that Drew plays is a very clear tribute to Marilyn. So here's a couple quotes. Joel Schumacher knows how much I love Marilyn Monroe, and I said, let's do a tribute to her. Sugar's like this glitter-dipped Marilyn, and it is a tribute. You can only do things like that with an icon like Marilyn. You should never try to copy her because she can't be copied. And she said this in interview 1995.
Yeah, and then that same year, kind of very similarly to Movie Line, she said, Marilyn is an icon, so it's crazy to think you can copy her, let alone be her. You can never touch that. But my character Sugar is like a tribute to her. So like, I just really appreciate that she wasn't like, oh, I'm doing a Marilyn Monroe. She's like, no, that's impossible. But I love her and I would love to like do this nice thing to honor her. And I definitely think that her outfit in the party scene of Batman Forever, where she's there with Jim Carrey's character, was modeled after a very specific dress that Marilyn wore in these famous photos that were taken for Life magazine by Philippe Halsman in 1952. So Drew's is more of a like lingerie. It doesn't really turn into a dress, but the tops of these are so similar. It's got to be intentional, right?
It has to be. How did you come across this even? Did you just remember these?
I think I just remembered. Like, I think it was just in my head somehow. I don't even know what I would have searched for to find the Marilyn ones.
It is absolutely, because there are a couple elements here. The sleeves have the same ruching along them. And then there's like a brooch situation in both of them that's like shiny silver. So you're absolutely right. And that is so cool.
I know. Yeah, she's so beautiful in that movie. And yeah, the glitter dip part, like she's literally covered in glitter, as she often was in the 90s, but love that.
Yeah, stay tuned for our next episode to hear us talk a little bit more about Drew and Batman Forever.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, little spoiler alert for what comes next. All right, so now let's get into George Magazine from 1996.
This is probably the most like blatant, right? The most like she is literally dressing up as Marilyn for a purpose because this magazine, so it was JFK Jr.'s magazine. And so his former executive editor, Elizabeth Mitchell, she has a quote where she said, I said to John, this might be a little touchy, but here's an idea. It's Clinton's 50th birthday. We could do something playing off Happy Birthday, Mr. President, which of course was famously sung to Kennedy's father by Marilyn Monroe. He had this look of amused incredulity, and then he said, it's great, let's do it. He chose Drew Barrymore to be the one to pose as Marilyn on the cover. And so cool. What a choice.
What a choice. These are so cool. She was photographed by Mario Sorrenti for these images in George Magazine. And I think we've only seen the 2.
So we've only seen the 2. I think it was the stylist on the shoot had posted. I went like deep diving on their Instagram. And I think it's like a test Polaroid of Drew on the
Oh.
shoot, and that's it. So like as far as like the true photos for the shoot, it's like the cover and then a tiny little one on the contents page. What a waste.
But it's a gorgeous cover.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
think the outfit, the dress is supposed to have like it's an homage to, of course, the whole look of Marilyn
Yep.
for that birthday for
Yep.
JFK.
It's gorgeous.
It's
It's
so
kind of funny.
gorgeous.
It doesn't even say her name on the cover. It just says happy birthday, Mr. President. Like you
Yeah,
maybe wouldn't even know it was her.
that's such a good point. It's not like she's interviewed.
No,
So
there's no feature on her.
yeah,
It's so gorgeous.
it's
Ugh.
so gorgeous. I feel like I've said this before, but the wig has always reminded me of the wig she wears in the Ellen von Unworth.
Oh, the German Vogue.
Yeah, it's always
Just the
kind of
big
reminded me of
blonde
that.
bouffant. Yeah, there's a couple photo shoots Drew did in the 90s that probably have a little bit of Marilyn inspo. Also, the 17 magazine from 1993. I feel like that one often got compared to Marilyn.
Yeah.
We'll put some pictures from that one up in the gallery as well.
I could totally see that. That the hair is like vaguely, yeah, kind of classic
Totally.
in that way.
I mean, maybe even Guess like has a bit of that inspo in there. Could be.
I mean, Marilyn's inspiration
Yeah,
is just
it's
so
everywhere.
broad. Yeah. Yeah.
I did find one cute little quote from 1997 to Juice magazine about sexiness. And I just thought this was cute because the interviewer said, how did you manage your metamorphosis from the little girl in E.T. to sex symbol? And she laughs and she says, I don't know. I just dealt with my own organic evolution. I don't think I've tried to be a sex symbol. I think sexy is not trying to be sexy. I don't think sexy is somebody pushing the limits. The sexiest woman in the world was Marilyn Monroe because, I think she had a confidence in herself that we all admire. So it's just cute that
I like that.
you can really see how much she looked up to her and admired her in so many different ways.
Totally. Okay, so now let's jump to 2003. A fountain was dedicated at the Chinese Theater to the Holly Grove Foundation. Marilyn spent some time at the Holly Grove Orphanage during her childhood, and money from this fountain is donated to Holly Grove. That's really neat. You made a note here. It sounds like it closed in late 2005, but they still run some therapeutic programs for children. So it's still
I was like, I hope the coins are still going
going
to
somewhere.
this cause. But
Yes.
it's so interesting that Drew was chosen to be the one on hand to do this dedication. She was like right in the middle of full throttle promos at this time. But I would love to know why she was chosen. There's really no like news articles about it, but it's really special. And she had like a very classic silhouette that day, like a button up white shirt and a black pencil skirt and some heels. And we said this off mic, but we weren't able to attend this. We must have known about it in advance, but we couldn't go because she also did the Tonight Show with Jay Leno that day. And we opted to go to that instead. We couldn't be at both, even though she was able to.
Yep. I feel like we knew about it maybe.
Yeah, I really think we did.
Yeah. The look that she has is so classy. Like it's such a great look.
And we definitely have pictures of us with Brian in front of this, right? Does that sound familiar?
Probably.
I'll have to dig those up.
I don't remember, but I can't imagine we wouldn't have like gone and been like, hey, Drew.
I tried like really hard to like make sure the fountain was still there through like Google Images. It looks like it is, but I like the street view. There was like a premiere going on, so everything's blocked.
That's funny.
That's Hollywood Boulevard, baby.
It's always bopping over there. All right, so let's just jump to the next year.
Speaking of premieres.
So this is something we did attend, and I think we just talked about this.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that.
In 2004, Drew wore a dress to the premiere of 50 First Dates that is inspired by Marilyn's dress in the movie Niagara, though her dress in Niagara is red. Did you read about this, or did you just like figure it out? Okay.
No, Drew actually spoke about this to People magazine. Remember when a couple years ago they did this like 20 years, 20 looks or 20 something like that. So they had her look back on literally 20 years of fashion, and it started like in 2002. So it was more recent looks.
Yeah.
So we like to say this is recent, even though it's not. 20 years ago.
21 years ago.
But anyway, she said she was very inspired by that dress, and she somehow found this black sort of very close copy version of it, and she was really excited. So they have that same little like peekaboo cutout and a little bow in the front. They're about the same length. It's really cute.
It's a very flattering dress on both of them. And
yes, absolutely. I want that dress actually.
I mean, I would like to wear that too.
You should find a knockoff.
Maybe you can.
The next year in 2005, Drew was working on the movie Lucky You, and she plays a singer in that movie, which is, different for Drew. And she had told another magazine that when she was training for it, I think actually the prompt for this question was like, oh, did you listen to the Strokes? Because she was dating Fabrizio. And she's like, no, I actually listened to a lot of Marilyn Monroe. I love her singing voice. It's so beautiful, so charismatic and sensual. So we'll have to throw in a Marilyn singing to close up this episode because she did have such a great voice. But that's really neat that was sort of like the vibe that Drew was trying to pull.
Mm-hmm. That is cool. And this is neat. You paid way more attention to this than I did at the time, and I'm so glad you did. So The Essentials, which was a series where Drew was like presenting films with Robert Osborne on TCM. Yeah. So in 2012 and 2014, there were a few Marilyn films included.
I know. I went back to 2013. I read the list. Amazingly, I saved the list from the websites every year too. So we have the full list. But I kept reading 2013. Are we sure there's no Marilyn ones? I didn't see any. But the very first movie that they did on the very first episode of the very first season with Drew was For Some Like It Hot, which is so cool. That one is not available on YouTube, but I was able to find it on DVD, which is how I found that I have the freaking Dateline 2005 on DVD and didn't know.
So funny.
But I just pulled one quote where Drew said, "It was the quintessential way that I saw Marilyn Monroe as this icon. In this part, she comes alive in the most extraordinary way." So cute.
It is such a good movie. I want to watch Some Like It Hot again.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time.
I've never seen these other two that are mentioned at all.
Okay.
So in the third season, so in 2014, they did How to Marry a Millionaire and Bus Stop. So two films were featured in the third season.
And I think it's worth noting that Drew definitely played a role in choosing the films. It's not like she just showed up and talked about them. I think it was very much a collaboration with her and Robert Osborne. I mean, some of the ones during her seasons are so her choices. These ones, you can feel that she's very, very knowledgeable about movies in general, film history, but she knows her stuff. So the intros and the outros for both of those movies are on YouTube, so we'll be sure to link to them because they're fun to watch.
That's really cool. And speaking of those, there was a really lovely quote in one of them that we're going to play here to kind of wrap up this episode that sort of just encapsulates Drew's appreciation of Marilyn a little bit, right?
Yeah.
She is just the world's greatest icon. Yeah. And I think her status and star only grows and rises with time.
Too bad she wasn't around, since that was important to her, to know what an icon she is, because she wasn't held in that high regard when she died. That's one of the pities. But how great we still have it on film. That's another great thing about film.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
There's no lack of love for Marilyn Monroe.
No. Or us for you.
Oh, thank you, Robert.
Good to have you here.
Oh, Robert.
Good to be with you, Drew.
Best. Love you, Robert, so much.
We're going to move on.
Flustered she is by that.
But I also love that he's basically making just a little comparison.
It's really sweet.
Yeah. So this was a fun departure for us and a cool way for us to kind of look at something that Drew not just relates to, but appreciates and models part of her career after. What a cool, I don't know.
I know. I was really inspired with this one. As soon as the seeds started planting in my mind, I was literally waking up thinking about it. Oh, what about this? Or I really enjoyed this one. And it definitely gave me a little I want to get a little back into Marilyn again. I went through a phase of really being into her and really seeking out her movies and stuff and reading a lot of biographies. And I'm oh, I think it's time to do that again.
Also, because I feel every time we talk about the Drewseum, or at least this is a sentiment that has come out multiple times, that I feel like what we try to do is while Drew's alive, like create this timeline in history that someone might do for someone who's gone, like Marilyn. Like we can see Drew's legendary status in her life, and maybe it is partially because she's been able to like live long enough to reflect on it. You know, I mean, there's part of that, but
that was actually a huge hope I had when I wanted to get like an expert or historian or collector of Marilyn on for this episode. I wanted to talk about like the difference of, you know, having a living legend that we collect on and try to preserve the legacy on versus, you know, someone who is in the past. And like some ways, probably that way's easier. In some ways that's harder. And just kind of the way that plays out for each of us. And I like thinking, you know, just like you said, I like thinking that we're sort of like preemptively doing that for Drew, which is like sort of weird, but
like
it's also neat.
It makes me just wonder, like, were there people who started to collect when she was alive?
Oh,
that,
I'm
like,
sure.
Made scrapbooks. You know, people had to have made
scrapbooks.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I love imagining that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I just had like one more thought about like collecting on someone who's gone. Like anything new that comes out is all posthumous, right? So it's like, but you might still get like outtakes from a really old photo shoot. Like,
oh my God, can you imagine?
Except it would be, you know, way older. I don't know.
Somebody like finds the negatives in some vault somewhere. Yeah, there's a website called the Marilyn Monroe Collection, and it's really all just items, very personal items from her life. And man, cool. I see some of those and I'm just like, oh, goals. Like, you know, just the things that Drew probably just tosses aside were like, oh, we would love to preserve that in the Drewseum for you.
I mean, we're working on it being like known that we're doing this, you know, but while being like respectful and realizing that doing it for someone who's alive is odd.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's good. That's the deep note I want to end this episode. It's good. Speaking of us collecting on Drew, stay tuned, guys. There is something coming out in a few months on TV that we can't wait to share with you. That's all.
Yeah. that is all on that for now. Okay. Thank you for putting this together, Ashley. This was a really fun.
Thanks for being open to it. I'm like, this is what we're doing.
I like it. All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for being here, and happy 99th birthday to Marilyn Monroe. Thank you for your legacy that you have done and the way that it's influenced Drew's life, and that we get to be here talking about our girl. How cool.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And thanks you guys for listening. Be sure to give us some feedback, positive feedback on whatever platform you're listening to us on. We would appreciate it. And go find us on Instagram at How Do You Drew Pod. And we also have at Drewseum.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you're on the internet all the time anyway, so make sure you visit our episode page on howdoyoudrew.com, hosted on our OG, thedrewseum.com. Make sure you sign up for our Patreon.
Patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
We're getting close to finished with Little Girl Lost over there.
We keep saying that.
But we really are.
Really are.
You know, time is relative. Time is a melting clock. What was that thing?
Yeah, time is melting like a Dali painting.
Yes. All right, everyone. And finally, don't forget to send listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com or on any of those other platforms. Yeah.
Or how about your P.O. box where you just got some mail for the Drew Barrymore show, apparently. You never sent me a picture.
Yeah, I got to. We just got some like menopause guidebook that someone sent that they really wanted Drew to see in my P.O. box.
Oh, that's so weird and kind of sad.
It's kind of sad. But if you want to send us snail mail, send it to us at P.O. Box 416, Phillips, Maine, 04966, or you can see that address on our website.
Someone sent me a letter.
Let us crinkle your paper into our microphones.
All right, everyone. I guess we'll see you all next Drew's Day.
That sounds great. For Batman. What's the Batman song?
No, you did it right. Batman. Although that's like the 60s theme.
Totally different.
But I love it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
A kiss on the hand may be quite continental, but diamonds are a girl's best friend. A kiss may be grand, but it won't pay the rental on your humble flat or help you at the automat.
This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you.
Thank you.